how to open the door with hard to reach prospects. Hi, I'm Stephen Wester, CEO of Predictive ROI. This has got to be one of the most challenging videos I tried to record because I'm trying to keep it under 10 minutes, short and concise, but it's a super important topic and holy bananas. Last week I shared an email, maybe you received it. I asked for your votes on 3 different topics, and then the highest vote getter, then I would record a video, this video. But the other 2, holy bananas, got a lot of votes as well. So next Tuesday and then the Tuesday after that, I'm going to record videos on the other 2 topics as well. So now this is going to be a series of 3. Okay, so how to open doors with your hard to reach prospects. It's a worthy goal, right? Because if your sales pipeline feels like this, dry, dusty, barren, hot, all of that, and you're not quite sure where your next new client or prospect is going to come from, then being able to master this, being able to do this with excellence is going to have a good payoff and a good return. Because then your sales pipeline is going to feel like this: a steady stream of right fit clients, right fit prospects flowing into the agency, and yay for that. So I want to share some data that is sort of working against all of us right now. And if you've not yet downloaded the 2025 Edelman Trust Barometer, I highly encourage you to do that. And also, if you've not yet downloaded the Agency Core research study, I would highly encourage you to do that as well. But one of the things that is super interesting, and there's a correlation between these 2 studies, is that Edelman found that we're not in a place of kind of zero trust, if you will. We're in a state of distrust, right? So I'm making up this number that when you meet somebody for the first time or a hard to reach prospect, they're not looking at you skeptically of going like, man, there's zero trust. I don't trust that person at all. In fact, what they're saying is, either consciously or subconsciously, is that they distrust you. So we're like at a -6. So we really have to work just to get back to 0, because that's what the data shows right now. So we have to be smart. We have to knock on the door, yes, but then what I want you to do is I want you to actually change the game. I want you to change the script. I want you to flip, the whatever. And instead of just knocking on the door, we also want you here at Predictive to own the door. This person standing out front of the Ritz-Carlton is not chasing down people on the street and begging them to stay at the hotel. They're staying there and saying, and then when the VIPs, when the guests who they're most excited to serve, when they roll up, they're saying, welcome, Sally. We're so excited that you're here, and we hope that you really enjoy your time that you spend with us. They're creating this very special moment. So as soon as Sally or whoever the right fit guest is, when that person arrives, they can greet that person with intention and really help that person feel special. And you can do that by applying what we call the transitional moments framework. Okay. Transitional moments means it represents a change in relationship. They're not only going from an unaddressable audience to becoming an addressable audience, meaning this massive people at the macro level, to then at the micro level, the sales stage, to where they can be addressable, meaning you have their email address or whatever, primarily email. But it also means that you have built the very important word that we were just talking about, messy handwriting, but you've built trust along the way, because you've done that in a very specific, curated, intentional way of creating these doors, these open experiences, and inviting your prospects in. And it's not a pitch, you're inviting them in to this experience. And then also you're recognizing that you need to do that up and down the sales funnel. This is not I'm going to create an ebook and there you go. It's about creating a series of open doors, and I'll get to that metaphor in just a minute. But the trap that agencies can easily fall into is thinking, oh, well, I created that thing, and now, that thing should be enough. And it is not enough anymore. And the data shows that. Instead, what we want you to create is, yes, we want you to create the thing, but we also want you to think about creating a hallway of open doors. That's what the data shows today, that you need to create a series of things that are going to create this opportunity for you to build trust consistently over time, so that every time someone from your audience turns around with an important question, there you are with a helpful answer. And you do that by architecting a hallway of doors that are interdependent, and they all work and orchestrated together. So going back to the framework here, again, what we're talking about is there's a transitional moment in between macro and micro. There's a transitional moment in between micro and nano. And there's a transitional moment down to existing. So we're paying attention to our experience with our prospects in that journey all the way up and down. And as again, I think I mentioned this a few minutes ago, it's not linear. So your prospects are flowing up and down your sales funnel in a bunch of different paths and journeys. So it's really important to have this hallway built so they can see which door that they want to go through next. Okay, so for example, so maybe you're stepping on stage. This is macro content. You're stepping on stage at an industry event. This is Hannah Roth. And then my business partner, Eric Jensen, are on stage at an industry conference, sharing their expertise, sharing content at the macro level. Then we take that content, we break it down, and we put it into the micro stage, right? So we build out a resource library and emails and all of those things for our audience to learn from and to consume and to take their relationship with us deeper. And then when we go to industry conferences, maybe we're curating special cocktail hours. Conversations and cocktails is what we call that one, where we bring together our clients and prospects, for a few real fun hours. Is there a presentation there? No, there's not a pitch at all. We're there to build relationships and trust and so forth in the sense of community and whatnot inside our community, right? And so if you're not doing those things, we would highly encourage you to start doing those things and then culminating all of that effort with something like this. Every February, June, and October, we host what we call the 2-day intensive. And so we would encourage you to create an intensive experience like that where you're bringing your clients together and then also opening that up to special VIP guests. Are there times where we are hosting an intensive and after or during that intensive that a guest raises their hand and says, hey, how can I better participate or better become part of what you're doing here at Predictive? Can I become a client? And does that happen? Absolutely. Does it also happen where we don't hear from somebody for a year or two and they come back to us and say, hey, I went to that thing a couple years ago and now we're ready. Can you help me solve the problem? Yep, absolutely. That happens too. But if we only did it once, we would remove that opportunity in order to be helpful with that prospective client. So that's where you need the consistency of one door and then also a hallway of doors to make sure that you're giving yourself that consistent at-bat. Okay, that is how you flip the script. And that is how you open doors with hard to reach prospects by making sure that you're not only creating super amazing, awesome, curated experiences, but you're doing it consistently over time because that's what makes you easier to say yes to, right? So your invitations are easier to say yes to, and then they really get to see what you're all about and to experience your community. All right, so this is going to sound like a silly story to kind of bring us in for a landing, but one of my most favorite movies of all time is The Pirates of the Caribbean. And one of my most favorite villains in that movie is Captain Barbossa. And there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where they've kidnapped Elizabeth Swann, or at least that's what she's going. She's going by Elizabeth Turner to kind of hide her identity. When he reveals the curse that he and his shipmates and crew are under, where he steps into the moonlight and he turns into a skeleton and he says, "You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner, because you're in one." And it's a very powerful moment. And my point is that here, you're going to be architecting that same sort of story. And so all of these experiences, one after the other, after the other, after the other, pretty soon, your prospects are going to start thinking, wait a minute, I'm a part of this story. I see what they're doing here. And they're not going to care at all because you're delivering so much value. They see themselves in the story. And it's like, that is awesome. And then maybe they're going to want you to do that for them. Right? So that they can do that as part of how they go to market because you've obviously demonstrated the expertise. So I hope that was helpful. How to open doors with hard to reach prospects. Do that through transitional moments. If this was helpful, please drop a comment. Let me know if you want the framework, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.